The storming of the Bastille, which took place on July 14, 1789, was one of the most iconic and decisive events of the French Revolution, symbolizing the collapse of royal absolutism and the awakening of popular power. The Bastille was a medieval fortress located on the eastern side of Paris, originally built in the 14th century to defend the city from English invasions during the Hundred Years' War, but by the late 18th century it had become a state prison used by the monarchy to detain political prisoners, intellectuals, and anyone accused of defying royal authority. Although by 1789 the fortress held only 7 inmates, 4 counterfeiters, 2 mentally ill men, and 1 aristocrat accused of immorality, it remained a powerful symbol of tyranny and oppression in the eyes of the people. The political and economic situation in France had reached a critical point. King Louis XVI faced a financial crisis caused by decades of costly wars, including France's involvement in the American Revolution, and by the extravagant spending of the royal court. In May 1789, the king had called the Estates General to address the kingdom's fiscal collapse, bringing together representatives from the 3 social estates, the clergy, the nobility, and the commoners, known as the Third Estate. However, disputes over voting rights quickly led to a breakdown in negotiations. On June 17, 1789, the Third Estate declared itself the National Assembly, claiming the authority to represent the French people. Days later, when they found themselves locked out of their usual meeting place, they gathered in a nearby indoor tennis court and swore the famous tennis court oath, vowing not to disband until a new constitution was established. Meanwhile, food shortages and rising bread prices had driven the Parisian population into despair. The cost of bread, the staple of the common diet, had risen dramatically due to poor harvests and unemployment. Unemployment was widespread. These tensions, combined with rumors that the king was preparing to use military force to dissolve the National Assembly, created a climate of fear and anger. On July 11th, Louis XVI dismissed Jacques Necker, the popular finance minister who was seen as sympathetic to the common people and to reformist ideas. This act provoked outrage across Paris. Demonstrations broke out, and citizens began arming themselves to defend what they believed was an imminent royal assault. Crowds looted guns and gunpowder from various sources, but much of the city's gunpowder was stored in the Bastille. On the morning of July 14th, thousands of Parisians, joined by some mutinous soldiers from the Garde Française, marched toward the fortress. The governor of the Bastille, Bernard-René, attempted to negotiate with the mob, but tensions escalated rapidly. Around midday, shots were fired, though it remains unclear who fired first. The crowd, now numbering several thousand, stormed the outer courtyard and engaged in fierce combat with the garrison. The battle lasted for several hours under heavy gunfire until, in the afternoon, Launay realized that resistance was futile and agreed to surrender on the condition that his men be spared. However, once the gates were opened, the enraged crowd seized Launay and several guards, dragging them through the streets. Launay was brutally killed, and his head was paraded on a pike as a grim symbol of revolutionary justice. The fall of the Bastille sent shockwaves through France. News of the event spread rapidly, and within days, uprisings erupted in towns and villages across the country. The storming of the fortress was not only a physical victory, but also a psychological and political one. It demonstrated that the people could challenge royal authority and win. In the days that followed, the king appeared uncertain and powerless. On July 15th, Louis XVI visited Paris and reluctantly recognized the newly formed National Guard, commanded by the Marquis de Lafayette, and accepted the revolutionary tricolor cockade as a symbol of reconciliation between monarchy and people. Yet the unity was short-lived, as revolutionary fervor continued to grow and the monarchy's credibility eroded. The storming of the Bastille became a turning point that marked the beginning of the French Revolution and the eventual downfall of the Ancien regime. The fortress itself was soon demolished, and its stones were distributed as souvenirs or used to build the Pont de la Concorde, symbolizing the transformation of tyranny into liberty. Over time, the event became mythologized as a heroic uprising of the oppressed against despotism. July 14th, or La Fête Nationale, is now celebrated every year as France's national holiday, commemorating not only the fall of the Bastille, but also the birth of modern France and the enduring ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity that the revolution sought to achieve.